Following the trade of Dennis Schroder to the Golden State Warriors, what's the plan for Golden State on the court and maybe into the offseason? It's been revealed. It has been leaked, and that's what we're going to talk about on today's show. But before we do, guys, make sure you are subscribed. This is one thing. Before we get any further with this video, I got to have you guys go down below, hit that red sub button as we are on the road to 71,000 subscribers. We're less than 400 away. Could we get there on today's video? I know, it'd be a major feat, but I believe in Dub Nation. Go down below and subscribe. What's going on, Dub Nation? You're watching Warriors Today by Chat Sports. I am your host, Tyler Smith, and on today's show, Golden State's plan with Dennis Schroder in the near and maybe distant future has been leaked. Mike Dunleavy has spoke about Schroder. Steve Kerr has spoke about Schroder. Steph and Draymond have spoke about Schroder and his fit on the team. We're going to unpack all of those quotes today. Let's start with this, right? Because Dennis Schroder was traded for D'Anthony Melton, and now we know Reese Beekman was also included in the deal, as well as 3 second-round picks. Golden State gets 1 pick back in return. D'Anthony Melton was on a 1-year, $12.8 million contract. Dennis Schroder, on the other hand, is on a 1-year, $13 million contract. So his time in Golden State could be up after just a couple of months, but Mike Dunleavy, the Warriors GM, says he wants this to be a longer relationship than just a couple of months. Here's what he had to say. He said, no doubt on looking into keeping him long term. Anytime you're giving things up, in this case, we're giving up some draft capital. I don't think you intend for it to be a short-term thing. At Dennis's age, we still think he's got a lot of good years left in him, and we'll have the ability to re-sign him after the season. Again, we think he's a good fit for us on both sides of the court. Hopefully, there's a relationship here longer than a few months. And Dennis Schroder is 31 years old right now, but at the end of the day, this is GM speak. This is something that he has to say, right? He's not going to say, yeah, we traded for Dennis Schroder here to make a push in the 24-25 season, and then we're just going to let him walk at free agency. No, of course not. He's going to want Dennis Schroder back long term, and I think this is a good thing, right? He could fit very well next to Stephen Curry. We'll talk more about that as the video goes on, but this is a player who has only gotten better over the past couple of seasons as his role has increased on the teams that he's been on. So I think this could be a very good pairing here for Golden State long term, as D'Anthony Melton looked like somebody who could fit right into that role. This seems like he's going to be the replacement for Melton, and who knows, maybe he could be re-signed back on a bargain in a couple when the summer rolls around, as the Warriors do have his bird rights, which makes it much easier for them to come to a long-term agreement with Schroder. But before we get any further, I got to ask you guys this one question. Do you even want Dennis Schroder in Golden State long-term? I know, maybe it's a little too early to be asking this question, as he hasn't even stepped foot on the court for Golden State yet, but let me know down in the comment section. This will be the pinned comment on today's video. Do you want Golden State to keep Dennis Schroder and re-sign him long-term? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Dennis Schroder over the last couple of seasons, man, he's only gotten better in both the production, overall volume, as well as the efficiency, man. I mean, Brooklyn had him as one of the focal points of their offense heading into this season. Now, Dennis Schroder, Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith, these pillars of Brooklyn, as far as this season goes, they had him up there in the playoff conversation. The play-in spot was occupied by Brooklyn. So that's why they decided to get rid of Dennis Schroder, because they didn't want to be in that spot anymore. They're looking to tank. But through 23 games this season, he was balling for Brooklyn. 18.5 points, 6.5 assists. I believe both of those are career highs for Dennis Schroder, and I believe his 38.7% from three-point range is also a career high, and that's very conducive to what Golden State wants to do from outside. We know Steve Kerr wants to get up a ton of threes. Golden State has shown that they want to get up a ton of threes this season. Dennis Schroder can do just that, and he can do it both on the ball and off the ball. If you look at these numbers right here, the advanced shooting numbers for Dennis Schroder, catch and shoot three-point percentage, the guy's knocked down. Look, reminiscent of, an Andrew Wiggins, a Cam Johnson three-point percentage from this season. 42.9%. He is on fire. That's on about 90 attempts on catch-and-shoot jumpers from deep. So I like the volume there, and if he's working off the ball at some point and Steph's going to be a little bit more ball dominant, it works. He can kind of be a good foil for Steph in a lot of different situations. Now, the step-back three percentage, low volume, but 46%, man, I feel confident in letting Dennis Schroder work out of isolation situations, go out there and create his own shot. Got a super quick first step. Might not be the fastest-paced player in the whole wide world, but in the half-court setting, he knows how to get space from defenders. Shows there in the step-back three percentage. Only taken 13 of them so far this year. Maybe we see a couple more in Golden State as well. The pull-up three percentage, maybe not his best trait, right? And this isn't something the Golden State Warriors do very often, right? Pound the rock, and just pull up. A lot of those looks out of 33 were probably bad looks, maybe even near the end of the shot clock that Schroder had to go up and hoist one up. I don't take too much out of this number, but hey, maybe we don't let him ISO every single time down the floor and pull up from three. But Schroder also works heavily in the mid-range as well, a 60% shooter from that area, and obviously we know he has a good floater game, can work around the rim, can penetrate, can get past defenders. and finish at the cup. So I think Dennis Schroder is a multifaceted scorer, and that's what Golden State needs, right? They really need somebody who can go and put the ball in the cup outside of Steph. Because Steph has struggled over the past couple of weeks. I mean, he's not shooting lights out from three-point range as he normally does. He's not putting up 26, 27, 30 points a night. His minutes have been limited, and that's just so they can extend him long-term, right? They want to have him in May when Golden State's hopefully making a deep playoff run. Hopefully Dennis Schroder can come in here and take a little bit of the pressure off of Steph Curry, as the regular season is a drag. We got basically 60 more games left, and we don't want any nagging injuries to Steph or Draymond or any player on the wrong side of 30 for Golden State. Now, this Dennis Schroder trade does not mean that Golden State is going to stop, right? We heard from multiple NBA insiders, Shams Charania, Mark Stein, Jake Fisher. They all said that Golden State is not done working the phones in the trade market this year. And that's awesome, right? Because I said yesterday, the Dennis Schroder trade in a vacuum is great, but if that's the only move you make, kind of a lateral thing, right? I don't know if Golden State is going to be in contention in the Western Conference just by adding Dennis Schroder and basically replacing D'Anthony Melton with the guy. So this is good news. The Golden State is going to keep working the phones. Mike Dunleavy even said that this trade does not mean they are done. But this quote right here kind of piqued my interest a little bit. He said, "We're in a time here of maximizing our window with Steph and Draymond and Steve as our coach." That's not the mentality they had in the summer, man. It feels like they're eating their words a little bit when it comes to the faith that they were putting into Jonathan Kuminga and Brandon Podziemski long-term for Golden State. They thought that they could work on two separate timelines, but guess what? It doesn't work in the NBA. And I've talked to Knicks Now host Marshall Green about that. Like, it's just not a very productive way of building out a roster. You can't compete for tomorrow and play for today in today's NBA. There's too much talent across the board. There's too many teams that are ready to win right now. Golden State has to push their chips into the basket for Steph and Draymond, and maybe not those guys that they, decided not to trade for Lauri Markkanen and Paul George over the summer. I know. I digress, but it's ridiculous. Mike Dunleavy kind of feels like he's walking back his statements from the summer, Steve Kerr's statements from the summer, Joe Lacob's statements from the summer. What was I saying the whole time? You got to maximize the window you have with Steph right now. Hopefully, as this trade deadline nears closer and closer, Golden State is doing just that. Now, speaking of Steph, speaking of Draymond, we're going to talk about how they feel and what their vision is for Dennis Schroder on this Warriors roster on the back half of today's show, and overall talk about how Dennis Schroder is going to fit or maybe not fit on this Golden State roster. That might be a good thing. But first, I got to give a major shout out to today's sponsor, Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports platform, and I've been a customer longer than they've even been a sponsor at Chat Sports because it's so easy and so fun to play. Make your holidays bigger and brighter with Prize Picks, the best place to get real money action while watching your favorite sports. You can now win up to 1,000 times your money on Prize Picks. Did you hear me right? 1,000 times your money. And you better join now because this holiday season, Prize Picks is giving away 2 free picks in December, and they're also giving away $30+ million in rewards during their promo, Picksmas. Now you might be asking me, Tyler, Picksmas, promos, 1,000 extra money. How do I even do it? Well, it's very simple. All you guys got to do is pick a lineup of 2 to 6 player stat projections and just click more or less and watch the real money roll in real time. NBA Cup final tonight. Bucks, Thunder. Let's go, man. Let's get some buckets. Giannis Antetokounmpo, more than 25.5 points. That's a Taco Tuesday promo on Prize Picks where they give you discounted stat projections every single Tuesday. So I decided to take advantage and take Giannis more than 25.5. Say Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, more than 32.5 points. I need him to step up. The stars are going to shine the brightest in Vegas in the Cup final. Let's see it happen. And then AJ Green. He's been on fire for the Bucks, hitting a couple threes a game for the last few, so I decided to have more than 2.5 points. That's a goblin. It's a little bit less of a payout, but it's a little bit easier to hit. You can take my picks. You can fade my picks. Just make sure you go and do it at Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use that promo code CLNS and get $50 in your account for free when you place your first $5 entry. Again, download the app. Use code CLNS and get $50 in your account for free when you place your first $5 entry. You don't even need to win to receive the $50. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game. So, let's talk about Dennis Schroder on the court for the Golden State Warriors now. Steve Kerr said that Dennis Schroder will make his debut for Golden State on Thursday against the Memphis Grizzlies in their next game. He's ramping up. He's getting involved in the practices early this week, and hopefully he's going to be well enough integrated for him to play big-time minutes against a really good team in the Western Conference this year, the Memphis Grizzlies, on Thursday. And Steve Kerr is thrilled. That's his words. Thrilled about the signing, or the trade, because this is his quote right here. He said, "He's kicked my behind on 3 different continents." Yes, in FIBA when they played in France, obviously, this summer, and when they played in the Philippines last year, as well as when Dennis Schroeder's been in Toronto, not it's the same continent as the U.S., but he's beaten them everywhere. And Dennis Schroder is going to be very productive for this Golden State team. Steve Kerr knows that, and this is what he had to say about Schroeder's fit overall. He said he's a gamer, he's a competitor, pick and roll player, two-way player. This was a move that we felt made perfect sense, and he will fill what D'Anthony Melton was doing for us in terms of being able to play on or off the ball. Excellent defender, long wingspan. He's a steals guy, forced turnovers, pace, everything that we need. We feel he can provide. Now, that's interesting, right? Because Golden State, he mentioned pick and roll guy, isolation guy, somebody who can go get a shot himself. Golden State doesn't really play that way, right? The Warriors rank 27th in pick and roll frequency at about 13.5%. Well, we've learned from other people. Steve Kerr also said it. The Warriors are going to get more pick and roll opportunities for a guy who kind of fits that mold, right? Dennis Schroeder's been a guy who's been running pick and roll his entire life, dating back to his days playing early in Germany. But it's not really conducive to how Golden State plays. Is he going to be, running the second unit? Is there going to be nights where he starts? I think Steve Kerr mentioned that he is going to be starting in some certain nights. He loves the fit next to Stephen Curry, and hopefully the ball dominance and his ability to run the pick and roll can open up lanes for Stephen Curry to be running off the ball. And maybe he's trailing behind the pick and roll, and you see him at the top of the key, kick it out, 3-ball, easy money. There's going to be different ways Golden State can attack you. Golden State's also 27th in ISO frequency and 27th in isolation points per possession. So this is another thing that Dennis Schroder can help provide for Golden State. Working in that isolation game, going and creating your own shot. There aren't a ton of players. We've been saying this since June. There aren't a ton of players on this roster that can go out there, put the ball on the deck, and go create space and jump shots for themselves. So hopefully this is something that doesn't necessarily fit with how Golden State plays right now, but is going to work out for them in the long run. I don't think they would have made the trade unless they thought that he would contribute to a winning brand that they want to play. And Draymond kind of agrees with this statement. Here's what he had to say about Schroder. He says, I don't think that he was necessarily brought here to fit. We play a certain style of basketball that he does not really play. And I don't think the goal is to get him to play the style of basketball that we play. We need someone that can do the things that he does, and so I'm looking forward to us adjusting to him. The Warriors, 2 Hall of Famers, Stephen Curry and Draymond Green, adjusting to Dennis Schroder. I didn't know Dennis Schroder had this type of pull on a roster in 2024, 2025. But hey, the Warriors seem to believe that he is a player that is going to really change the game for them in a lot of different areas. He's going to be somebody, ever since D'Anthony Melton was injured, Steph's had to dominate the ball, and it hasn't been great for this Golden State Warriors offense. If you can kind of trace this skid that Golden State has had all the way back to that injury against the Dallas Mavericks the first time around. They have not been the same team since Melton went down, so hopefully this kind of turns them back into the team that we saw when they started the season 12-3. I love it. And Kerr actually thinks that, it's weird. Kerr and Draymond kind of saying different things here, right? Kerr thinks that Steph is a perfect fit with Dennis Schroder. Like I've mentioned, I don't want to harp on it again. What I mean by this is Dennis Schroder can put the ball on the ground. Stephen Curry can work run off ball screens, while Dennis Schroder's maybe running another pick and roll set, and they can just get open looks because of that. Teams are going to have to respect Dennis Schroder from the outside. So this is going to open things up more and more for a Golden State team that wants to play 5-out, that wants to play a spread brand of basketball and get more shots up from outside. Speaking of Curry, here's what he had to say about Schroder as well. He said he's a true competitor, can create, score, run an offense, a whole lineup. I'm excited to see him plug in. A guy that I can play with in the backcourt, can handle a lot of the ball handler responsibility when I'm off the court. Gives us another guy that can attack the defense, and on the other side, he loves to compete. He digs into the defensive end too, so it should be a seamless transition for him. We'll see how it works. Seems like everybody's on board with Dennis Schroder, and that was mentioned by Warriors insider Anthony Slater. Talked to Mike Dunleavy, and Dunleavy said that Steph and Draymond weren't banging down my door about this deal. We told them about it. They both gave me the thumbs up, so we went ahead and did it, which obviously makes sense, right? I've told you before. I'll tell you again. The trade in a vacuum was a no-brainer that you had to make. Overall, though, is it going to be enough for Golden State to be back in contention in the Western Conference, compete for an NBA championship? That's yet to be seen. So let me know. What do you guys think down in the comments section? Predict where Golden State finishes in the West with Dennis Schroder. If nothing else happens right now, where does Golden State finish right now? Keep in mind, there are 5 teams with a 14-11 or a 14-12 record right now in the NBA, in the Western Conference, excuse me. Golden State's the 7th seed in that play-in tournament bubble. So we'll see where it all ends up. Predict it for me down in the comments section. What my prediction would be is that they remain in the same spot. Like I said, if they don't make another move, this is just a lateral thing for Golden State. I don't think that they get much better with this move. Like they don't. He doesn't raise their ceiling enough. Definitely raises your floor, but I'm not so sure that Golden State without another move is going to be any better when it's all said and done. So they have to go make another move. who's out there for Golden State. Since you guys made it to the end of today's video, we're going to give you guys a little bit of an inside secret on what maybe another video might be this week. Shout out to Brett Siegel from Clutch Points. Here's what he had to say. I haven't heard any of these names so far, but he said other secondary talents the Warriors have discussed as potential trade targets are Minnesota Timberwolves guard Donte DiVincenzo, Portland Trailblazers defensive wing Matisse Thybulle, and 2 Raptors players, Kelly Olynyk and Bruce Brown. Interesting. I haven't heard any of these names so far, so that kind of makes me think that this might be a valid ordeal, right? This kind of makes me think that Golden State might be chasing after one of these guys. These are the first I've heard of any of it. However, the only name that intrigues me out of the bunch, really, I guess I maybe Bruce Brown, but he doesn't really play the Warriors style of basketball. Donte DiVincenzo is the only name that really kind of stirs the pot for me in any sense. What I was really hoping for, and when I started reading that quote, is that a real legit front court presence would be in there. I don't think Kelly Olynyk is a real legit front court presence that raises the floor or the ceiling of this Golden State team. Helps them play a little bit more 5 out on the offensive end, but what does he do on the defensive end? We saw against Dallas Mavericks, they got killed on the glass. They got killed in the paint, and they didn't really have anybody to stop any of the big men that Dallas had to offer, and they weren't able to stop Luka Doncic penetrating to the cup as well. So they got to go make a deal for one of those guys. Donte DiVincenzo's been in Golden State before. I think he could be productive if he was back. But I'm kind of on the side now where you went out and got a guard already. Got to go make sure you show up that front court as well, or get a really uber talented wing. Reminiscent of a Jimmy Butler, but like I said, I don't know if I want Jimmy. He had a nasty performance last night. I don't know if that's going to be something he does consistently from now on. But hey, we could talk about it more on social media. Hit me up on Twitter if you guys have any Golden State Warriors trade targets or suggestions for what they should do moving forward, as they're going to keep working the phones as we near closer and closer to the trade deadline. And that is why you subscribe to the channel, because we're going to be bringing you content like nobody else on YouTube surrounding your Golden State Warriors, trades, news, injuries, live shows, all of it and more right here at Warriors Today by Chat Sports. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Let's go Dubs.